Hey everybody, welcome into the top 5 movies of 2020. So to give you some backstory, I am Pat. I am the voice that gives you guys recaps usually, or if you check out the 60-second movie reviews, I do that as well. A couple years ago, I was watching the Oscars and I was just so annoyed at what was winning, because a lot of times you kind of know why movies are winning, right? Like, oh, it's in black and white. It's silent, so this is brilliant. Like, that movie wasn't that good. And I had trouble thinking about what my favorite movie was from that year. So I thought, okay, next year when it starts, start writing down every new movie you saw. And that started with 2015. And I remember that movie, that year, the best movie I saw was Whiplash, which was ironically the first movie I saw that year. But I've done that since. Last year was the first year I put out my top 5 best and worst movies of 2019. You can check out that video. I'll put a little thing up there. But we've done 2020, 106 movies. You can find the list of movies that I saw in the description. You can find out if I saw it in theaters. If there's an asterisk, I saw it in theaters. If there's an asterisk plus, I saw it in theaters. I didn't pay for it. But I saw, I believe, 15 movies in theaters. And I think the year before I saw something like 50 or something like that. So that just tells you how much the pandemic had an effect on really my social life, or lack thereof, because I go to the movies for free. But hopefully I can give you guys some clarity as to maybe to watch some stuff. So 106 movies this year, and there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of bad stuff. All right, but hopefully in 2020 when I do this again, we can have better movies, and I can get glasses that don't have glare, because that, what you see right there, yeah, that's annoying me as well. We'll start out though with the movies that I thought were worth mentioning but did not make my top 5. Jumanji. Jumanji was the next level. I thought was a sequel that they really could have mailed in, and they didn't, to my utter surprise. I really liked where they went with it. I liked the comedy in it. I thought the storyline was good too, and they changed it up. And I'm always worried and hesitant with a lot of these movies when they come out with sequels that they're not going to do that. They're not going to change it up. And in this sense, they did. I refer to it as like the Hangover treatment when the Hangover 2 came out, and they really just did nothing more than switch a baby with a monkey and switch Vegas with Thailand. They could have done that with this. They didn't, and I did like where they went with it. So I gotta shout out Jumanji, the second level, and I'm looking forward to the third one if it comes out. I think they did greenlight it. So, but it's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it. If you have kids, they'll definitely enjoy it. The next one I saw was Bad Boys for Life. I was really, really worried that Bad Boys for Life, because of the fact that it had been so long, was going to fall flat. You know, and we've seen movies like Zoolander come out years after the original, and it's horrible. On the flip side, we've seen a movie like Blade Runner 2049 that comes out 20-something years after the original, and it's tremendous. And Bad Boys for Life was so good. Martin Lawrence, Will Smith, they didn't miss a beat in this movie. They continued on with the trend of really, really strong comedic presence along with good action. And I like the storyline. I wasn't a huge fan of the second Bad Boys movie, but this one I thought was, I would argue this was the second best one behind the original, and it's definitely worth watching. So if you see it on a streaming service, I don't know if it is, I believe it might be on HBO, definitely check this movie out. The next one is Missing Link. I should mention, I can't believe I didn't do this already. My list of 106 movies is, if I haven't seen a movie ever, it goes on the list. So, you'll see on my list, Die Hard was the last movie I watched in 2020. Die Hard came out 31 years ago. I had never seen it. I'm a late bloomer, okay? Hit thumbs down for me not seeing Die Hard. But it goes on my list. I'd never seen it, okay? So my list isn't the traditional best of 2020 because of the fact that I was finding some of these movies you go, oh, this is the best movie I saw in 2020. Well, actually, it came out in 2019 at the Toronto Film Festival, and it came out in 2019 at Cannes, so technically it's a 2019 movie. I got sick of that. This is personally my list. So Missing Link, which was actually nominated for an Oscar, and it came out in 2019. This is a kid's movie that you can find on Hulu, and it's really, really good. I like the animation a lot. I thought the storyline was cool, and I think it's a good movie that you can sit down with your kids and check out, and you're not going to want to, shoot yourself in the head with it, because the storyline is worth watching. The next one is Birds of Prey. I am not a DC guy at all. I am a Marvel guy till I die. This was the first movie that DC has put out where I actually really, really enjoyed it. And I didn't think it was either mediocre or a complete pile of shit. I like Shazam, but I thought Shazam was just okay. But Birds of Prey, I wanted to go into it hating it, and I couldn't because it was so much fun. It was, I love what the director did with it. The cinematography was great. Soundtrack was, oh my God, it was a banger. But the movie itself, I thought was really, really good. And I am a person who is a straight up DC hater, and I love this movie. And if they come out with another one, I will be there day one. So take it from a guy who went in very hesitant to like it, loved it. The next one is, and this is another movie that did not come out in 2020, but I watched it in 2020, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers was not what I thought at all. I thought this movie was going to be Tom Hanks and the story of Mr. Rogers, where he came from, his career as a sniper in the Vietnam War. Obviously, that's not true, but it's a legend. And it wasn't. It ended up being a story about this cynical reporter who had to interview Mr. Rogers and thought there's no way this guy can be that great. And it turns out he was that great. And it was a feel-good movie. It was a feel-good movie in the sense of, look, this year sucked. There's a lot of shitty people out there. And I think a lot of people need to remember Mr. Rogers and remember just how good of a human he was and how caring he was. And, you know, it's not that hard to be a good person. It's really not. Like, it takes effort to be a piece of shit. Mr. Rogers was a good person. This reporter found it out, but it was a really good, feel-good movie that I absolutely loved. I think this is still on HBO. You can check it out. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Wonderful. The next one is The Hunt. I was really concerned that The Hunt, when it got switched from a September release to a March release, was a straight-up marketing gimmick by Blumhouse. I thought they were going with The Interview, if you remember the Seth Rogen, James Franco movie that got taken out of theaters because everybody was worried that the North Koreans were going to attack American movie theaters. Because everybody knows there's so many North Koreans out there living in the States who are diehard fans of Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un. So, of course, they would attack. It makes perfect sense. Then you watch The Interview and you're like, oh, that's why they took it out of theaters, because it wasn't very good. And I was worried that The Hunt was going to be the same way. And when I watched it, look, it's a most dangerous game. I mean, we've seen this movie plenty of times, but I loved it. I was a big fan of this movie. Betty Gilpin was tremendous in it, but this movie did such a good job of poking fun at both sides of the political aisle that there are going to be people for sure that are going to be quote unquote offended by it, and they're probably the people that call you snowflakes and soy boys, but are easily offended. We all know that person, okay? But I feel like this movie made fun of the ultra right wing or left wing, whatever the Democratic side is. I'm not really political, but the ultra left wingist, constantly upset, constantly offended for somebody. I think it did a great job making fun of them. And I'm kind of skewed more to Democratic, and I find those people annoying. So if you aren't, I think if you aren't on drastic sides of both sides of the aisle, if you aren't one of those people, if you're kind of in the middle, if you find a lot of politicians annoying, you're gonna like The Hunt. It was really good. The next one is The Banker. The Banker is on Apple Plus. You can find it now. True story about an African American who ends up becoming a real estate mogul in Los Angeles and ends up controlling a large portion of Los Angeles, and kind of what he had to go through. And it's really, really good, really well done. And it was the first thing that Apple put out that I thought, oh, okay, like the streaming service wars, if you want to call them that. They don't have a ton out, but this is actually like worth getting Apple Plus for. The next one is Train to Busan, another movie that didn't come out in 2020, but it's on Netflix. Korean zombie movie. You're going to have to read subtitles for this, but it is so good. Not much to say. It's a Korean zombie movie. If you like zombie movies, check it out if you haven't done so. The next one that we'll talk about is Extraction. I'll tell you right now, Extraction would have been number 6 on my list if I did the top 6. I really battled with Extraction and the movie that made number 5. To be honest, Chris Hemsworth has not done a lot of good movies outside of the MCU. Okay? Check out some of his movies. A lot of them were bad. So I go into Extraction thinking it's going to be a cheesy action movie with Chris Hemsworth. and that is it. They have an action movie in India? I'm all about it. Then you add this, like, this, you know, sidekick, and, you know, it's just the whole movie. I mean, the final scene, I usually hate those kind of scenes. I loved it in this situation. The final, quote-unquote, the battle scene, tremendous. This movie was so good. I couldn't believe it. And part of me wants a sequel, but another part of me doesn't, because I thought the ending was actually perfect. I'm sorry. My voice is getting dry. So the next one I will talk about, that was the one I love, and I believe that this one is still on Netflix. And it is got Mark Duplass and Elizabeth Moss. It is a couple who is having marriage problems. They go off to a retreat to kind of figure themselves out. Something happens. I don't want to tell you what happens. It'll give away the movie. But it was so good. Just take my word for it. Buckle in for an hour and a half. And it's really well done. And it's very creative. And I think that's something Hollywood is really missing, is creativity. This movie had it. So definitely check this movie out. The one I love. The next one we'll talk about is Togo. If you ever check out my podcast that I do called The Scene Invaders, I do it with my buddy Dan. I was pretty big into getting the hashtag #FuckBalto started. Hashtag #FuckBalto. Okay, let's get that trending. Because I look at Balto as an iceberg. 10%. You see 10% of an iceberg. Balto is 10% of the story of Balto. Disney goes out there, makes think that Balto did everything. He didn't. He didn't at all. Togo clears up the entire story. And this is on Disney Plus right now. Willem Dafoe, Sled Dogs. It's really good. And I think that this is something that Disney Plus needed, kind of like Apple Plus. Disney Plus has a ton of stuff. You've seen 99% of it. Yeah, okay, The Mandalorian is great. WandaVision is coming out. But in terms of original content, they don't have a ton. And Togo is one that I put on, not really knowing what it was going to be about. And I loved it. It was really, really good. I've suggested to a couple people, they agree with me on that. So definitely check out Togo. If you have Disney Plus and you're looking for a true story, great. Lovebirds is the next one I'll talk about. It is on Netflix. We've kind of seen a struggle with comedies to hit like they used to. And I think it's because our society has become so soft. A lot of people get easily offended that certain jokes can't hit. I mean, I'm sure you've heard plenty of times people say, it's unfortunate we couldn't make that movie today, but it's because of the fact that our society unfortunately gets offended. And it's hard to find a comedy nowadays, at least for me, that I go, okay, that was funny. At this point, if I chuckle a few times, if I laugh out loud, I'm like, that movie was great. But Lovebirds was really good. Kumail Nanjiani is the star in it. I forget the female's name. I apologize to her. I'm sure she's watching this, and I'm sure she'll hit thumbs down for it. But it's a really good movie that you can put on with a significant other, and it's just a good romantic comedy. And I realize now that it is way too dark in this place, so I probably need to put on some lights, so let's try that out. Much better. Although now I'm going to have to edit it together, and I'm going to feel like that guy who's like, what's up, guys? Hit that subscribe button, little bell on the top. Do it, don't, I don't care. I actually want to hit the bell on the top. I mean, I don't want to blow your email up, but because I put out a lot of videos, but do what you do. I appreciate the support. Next movie is Irresistible. This was another comedy that I actually really liked. It is directed by Jon Stewart. It stars Steve Carell, Rose Byrne, and it is a fictional story. I feel like probably based on a little bit of reality, though. That Steve Carell plays a political analyst who was working for Hillary Clinton, convinced she was going to win. He goes on a bender election night because she didn't, and he needs to figure out, okay, how do we stop that from happening in 2020? And he realized through doing some research that there was a select number of tiny pockets of the country that if they just flipped those little pockets, they would have won. So he heads to, like, Wisconsin, because he saw this video go viral of this farmer and this American speech thing, and he's like, okay, I can convince him to run as a Democrat. Rose Byrne plays a Republican doing the same job. She comes in. This movie did a really good job of poking fun of political analysts, political interviews, CNN, Fox News, all of it. And I'm not surprised because it's directed by Jon Stewart, who did The Daily Show, but it's another movie kind of like Lovebirds where it's a good movie to watch with like a significant other, but I think you will find it enjoyable. The next one is Hamilton. Full transparency. I wanted to hate Hamilton. I wanted to hate it so much. I don't know why, but it bothers me knowing that there are like 55-year-old soccer moms rolling around being like, I like rap. I have the Hamilton soundtrack. It bothers me that it was like the must-have ticket. Look, I don't know why. We all have our issues. But I wanted to hate watch this movie. And, it's based on a play, obviously. But I couldn't. 20 minutes in, I'm bumping to it. Sitting in the harbor now, see if you can spot them. Another immigrant coming. Loved it. I still don't like Lin-Manuel Miranda, but I love this little play. I'm digging it. So Hamilton, Disney Plus, you hit on that one, okay? Because I was a doubter. I became a believer. Wanted to hate it. You can't hate what your heart tells you to love. Loved Hamilton. Palm Springs, the next one. This is on Hulu right now. Really unique story with a twist, though, because we've seen this done. It's basically Groundhog Day. But the way that this movie was done was interesting with the storyline. Stars Andy Samberg and the mom from How I Met Your Mother. I forget her name. But it's really good. Really good. It's funny at times. It's interesting. I enjoyed it. The next one is Peninsula. This is actually the sequel to Train to Busan. I think I actually like this better than Train to Busan. They did kind of what The Purge did. The Purge was like an intricate storyline. Train to Busan, intricate storyline. Okay, well then what happens if you venture out and you have other people dealing with the same issue? And that was Train to Busan. That was Peninsula. It reminded me a little bit of Escape from LA or Escape from New York, the John Carpenter movies, because it's about a group that did escape, but they have to go back realizing that there's a ton of money in Busan that they can get out. So it was kind of a bank robbery too, but it was really well done. I loved it. You're going to have to read some subtitles though, but I thought it was really, really well done. The next one on the list is Borat. I was worried about Borat. I mean, it's been a while, and he's had some dubs. He's had some duds. Hit thumbs down for me saying dubs. He's had some duds. The Brothers Grimsley, whatever it was called, The Dictator, not good. But his Showtime show, This Is America, I thought was really funny. And when I got Borat, I was curious of how he was going to do Borat, considering everybody knows who Borat is. They cover that. I thought the humor was there. They also show, sadly, they show the bad side of America, but they do it in a comedic twist, and he's able to expose people by doing his characters, and he does them so well that I loved. There was only one part where I was like, you kind of crossed the line there, but other than that, I loved Borat, subsequent movie film. The other one is a movie called One of These Days. I actually saw this movie at the Philly Film Festival, and I've just been lazy and haven't put it up a 60-second review for him. But this movie is based on a true story in the sense of, like, I think the director, I read he saw an article or he saw a documentary about the topic, and he decided to make a feature film on it. But it's set in a small, I think, Texas town where people get their name drawn to put their hand on a new truck, and the last one to take their hand off wins. And it's about how much some of these people truly need this truck and how much they're willing to go through to get the truck. And I will tell you right now, the ending I did not see coming, and it's really well done. Unfortunately, I don't know when it's coming out because the Philly Film Festival, it's hit or miss. Some movies come out 2 months later. Some movies come out, Vast of Night came out 8 months later. And then maybe next year, which I saw, came out a year later. So I don't know when this is going to come out. But when One of These Days comes out, check it out. It's really well done. Becky. Becky was like, imagine Hannah, and I have recaps up for seasons 1 and 2. But imagine Hannah if she was like more realistic. That's Becky. Not only was this movie so good, it also was such a departure for Kevin James, who we're used to being King of Queens. And this movie's playing a brother in the Aryan nation who's going after a little girl and is willing to do anything. Like he doesn't give a rat's ass. Like he is going to murder anything. And he is a savage in this movie. And Becky is so good. And if you get a chance to check this movie out, I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but I actually ended up buying it, not having to watch it. Just heard good things. I think Vudu had a sale going at one point. Really, really good. Becky, check it out. If you're into movies like John Wick and Hannah and, the kind of action movies like that, really well done. And the last movie we'll talk about in the honorable mention category is Greenland. All right. I say this in my review, my 60-second review for Greenland. I'm a sucker for Gerard Butler movies, but to act like this guy hasn't had a bad string of movies is foolish. All right, Geostorm, bad. Hunter Killer, bad. Gods of Egypt, not good. Still, I'm a sucker for him. Like, I love the Angel Has Fallen series, Olympus Has Fallen, all those. I love them. And with Greenland, I thought the movie looked good when I saw a trailer for it, and I loved it because I think it was ridiculously realistic. And what I mean by ridiculously realistic is not so realistic, but I mean like it was ridiculous, comma, but realistic in the sense of we hear about comets hitting the Earth every year or two, and they never hit. One of these days they're going to hit. What do you do? Well, Gerard Butler was tasked with getting his family to safety, and full transparency, middle of it, I started Googling where the closest fallout shelter is. I'm screwed because I couldn't find any in Philadelphia. So if a comet hits, I mean that's it. No more recaps for you. But I liked it. I think it's going to be a good movie that you can literally put on at any moment, kind of let it sit there. But if you're into good Gerard Butler movies, I think this is it. All right, and then let's get into the top 5 movies. We'll start out with number 5, and it is The Binge. This was the movie that was tied with Extraction for number 5. I included it because it was the funniest movie of the year. And comedies are really tough, as I said, to hit nowadays, because I feel like the day and age of comedies being so great, you know, early mid-2000s, early 2000s. I mean, even a movie like they couldn't do anything in Blazing Saddles nowadays. And The Binge is a movie on Hulu where they took the idea of The Purge, but instead of violence, they made it out to be like drinking and doing drugs. Kids end up becoming of age to binge that night, and there's a campaign to have them not binge by their school. Vince Vaughn is in it. He is hysterical. This movie was laugh out loud funny, and it's absolutely worth checking out. It doesn't get talked about enough. I saw a top 10 comedy list of 2020. It was horrible. They had movies like Emma on there. They had movies like David Copperfield. No, if you want an actual movie that is funny, The Binge is it. Okay, check out The Binge. It's on Hulu right now. It's streaming for free, and you will not be disappointed in it. It was hysterical. The next movie on the list, number 4, is Trial of the Chicago 7. Aaron Sorkin at his finest. This was the first movie I saw post-pandemic where I was blown away. And I was like, this is going to make my list of top 5. And it did. It made number 4. But true story. And what I loved about what Aaron Sorkin did with this movie is he has a ton of actors in this movie that you recognize, but they're not main guys. It's not Leo. It's not... why do I always draw a blank on like stars nowadays? It's not Leo. It's not Ben Affleck. It's not, you get the gist. But it's side characters that you recognize. So it's Sacha Baron Cohen, who I always knew could act because I've seen him in other things other than, his comedies. So I knew he could act. He is tremendous in this movie. It is the messed up son from Succession. It is one of the guys from Bridge of Spies. I mean, it is like a who's who of, I recognize that guy. I don't know that guy's name, though. But he compiled a cast of all of these guys together, and it's so damn good. And it's not exactly an exciting topic, yet he made it exciting. And that's what Aaron Sorkin does so well. He did it with A Few Good Men, taking that courtroom drama and taking it to 2 hours and making it exhilarating. He did that again with the Trial of Chicago 7. It's really, really well done. I know a couple people aren't too thrilled with the ending, but the truth is the truth, and I loved it. I'm a sucker for true stories, though, but Aaron Sorkin is back, and this is it. The next movie that we'll talk about is the latest Pixar movie, Soul. Oh, man, Pixar. I am a sucker for Pixar. I'll go off camera real quick, and I will show you my... That's my backpack, my Buzz Lightyear backpack that I get made fun of at work, probably rightfully so. But I am a Pixar fanboy. If it's Pixar, I'm going to see it. And I'm not going to sit here, though, and act like Pixar hasn't had some duds. I'm not a fan of the Cars series at all. I thought The Good Dinosaur, I thought they mailed that in. And Soul, I didn't know anything really about Soul. And I was really, really worried when they announced that Soul was going to be released on Disney Plus for free. Because lately, if it's released for free... it's not good. It is not good at all. And I got a text from a buddy before I watched it that said Soul did not deserve to be released on Disney Plus for free. Meaning it was so good, and he was right. The only criticism I have of Soul, it's not a kid's movie. There's going to be a lot of kids out there who do not understand it. But I don't care because I'm a 31-year-old man. I understood it plenty and I loved it. So Soul, if you haven't watched Soul yet, please do yourself a favor. Check out Soul. The next one we'll talk about is The Way Back. The Way Back is not probably going to make anybody's top 5 list except mine. And the reason it made my top 5 list is because it was kind of near and dear to my heart. I have a 2-year-old son at home. When I saw it, he was 1. He just turned 2. But when I saw it, he was 1. You can see him. There's something in my eye all of a sudden. You can see him in my blooper video for my outtakes video for the Greenland review, which he kept interrupting nonstop. But I love sports movies. If it's a sports movie, I'm going to see it. And this is an alcoholic, Ben Affleck, who gets brought back to his high school. He's a high school basketball star there. Gets brought back to coach a bad basketball team, but he continues to battle with alcoholism. Alcoholism is something that runs rampant in my family, so I was really close to that aspect of it. But he's also a dad in this movie, and me being a somewhat new dad, that hit home for me. I went into it thinking this was going to be a sports movie. It is not a sports movie. It's a redemption story. It's really a human story about hitting the rock bottom and bringing yourself back up. And I loved it. I can't suggest this movie enough. I adored it. And this is Ben Affleck fresh out of rehab. He had just gotten out of rehab and did this movie. And I think it's pretty raw. I think you see that in this. I think, it's not much more to say about it, but it's really good. And it just, for me at least, it hit me emotionally. And that's why I'm putting it so high on my list, which it sat with me. And I saw this a day after seeing another really emotional dad movie. So it was like hitting me with all the feels. And it's unfortunate because I think this came out a week before the pandemic really, really hit in the States. And it didn't get the just desserts that it deserved in terms of the box office. But trust me on this. When it comes out on streaming services, if you can rent it, do yourself a favor, rent it. It's so good. And the last movie that I'll talk about is Onward. That was actually the movie that I saw the day before seeing The Way Back. I saw Onward. And it hit me right here. Because as I said, my kid at the time is 1 year old. I have a son, and it's all about this teenager who turned 16, who never met his dad, who all he wants to do is meet his dad. And he is with his older brother, and they're able to bring his dad back. Or they're trying to, but they only bring him back half, but they want to bring him back completely. So Ian, the main character, can meet his dad finally. And the ending of this movie got me. I've never cried in movies, but I've come really close at times. I came close at Collateral, and by the way, this all happened after I had a kid. But it came close with Collateral Beauty, the Will Smith movie, Field of Dreams, Endgame, and it all had to do with the fact that Tony Stark was given a daughter. And then this. And I saw this twice in theaters. I loved it so much. And every single time I watch it, just the last scene gets me. It's so creative. It's so well done. It's not lazy Pixar. It's tremendous Pixar. And I think this is the second time that I've done a top 5 list where a Pixar movie has made number 1. Because I think Coco is my number 1 in, I believe, 2017. But that's it. That's your top 5 right there. We've got The Binge at number 5. You've got The Trial of the Chicago 7 at number 4. You've got Soul at number 3. You've got The Way Back at number 2. And you've got Onward at number 1. So definitely check out some of those movies if you haven't done so already. Thank you for getting the support of the video. I will release the worst of 2020 tomorrow. Depending on when you're watching this, it might already be up. It might be on an end screen. Who knows? But thank you guys for checking this out. If you disagree with any of these, hit the thumbs down button. Tell me I suck. It's fine. Won't hurt my feelings. No, it does hurt my feelings. That's why I stay away from the comment section. But, subscribe to the channel if you want. Hit thumbs up if you want. Whatever. But, thanks for checking this out.